Good morning, and welcome to another preposterous episode of Diatribes from the Voice of Doom. And now here is your ponderous and pedestrian host, Voice of Doom. Good morning. Caught up early in the morning. Gonna start doing things now through hibernating. And so I did my morning prayers, and I figured I'd do a diatribe, because I'm bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, as well as can be expected. So I watched the madness on the news, various sources, and got enraged again, and have to get all spiffy. So, Petri dish, I didn't even watch his speech because I could see the highlights or lowlights or whatever you call it. And he's spreading hatred everywhere he can go, which is his wont as a white, old Caucasian. So it's expected of him to spread hatred and division and racism. So nothing was surprising. I've already gone through all that. Starting to see breakdowns here and there as far as the media is finally starting to get a little bit questioning and skeptical, which is about time because they've been going along with the program for so long it's ridiculous. Everything will be fine, everything will be normal. Yeah, sure. They're starting to see a lot of things, and when they see a few things, they're going to be apoplectic, and they're going to be catatonic, and they're going to be running away from their jobs because they'll be afraid to be next to anyone. So I was just free associating and stream of consciousness thinking about how this all happened. And I mean going back to the beginning, sort of, the middle. So, how did a certain segment of political society become exempt from any, I don't want to say the word, sick of hearing it, accountability? I mean, for decades and decades and decades, nobody's accounted for anything. So, how did this happen? So I go back in history a bit. And it's funny because the Civil Rights Act of 1964 was considered one of the greatest single pieces of legislation in U.S. history because it made all people equal under the law. And it led to other human rights, legislation. And there was 23 Democrats who voted against it. Southern Democrats, they called them. One Republican voted against the Civil Rights Act, John Tower. The rest were Democrats, and there was plenty of them. It was in the 30s, and they were led by people like Strom Thurmond and Maddox, and there were good Democrats, and it was Kennedy who started it, and it was his legacy. And Lyndon Johnson was a maniac, but he came from a poor background, and he, pushed it through. So I don't think the Democrats particularly got credit for that because the Southern Democrats filibustered for almost 2 months. So that kind of brings in this filibuster nonsense and the impunicity of people like Schumer, who put one shoe on one foot and then take it off and put the wrong shoe on the wrong foot and then try to say everything's fine and dandy. He won't even say that. They just ignore it and hope that the vote goes through. Forget about me being a total hypocrite to the max, that people have documentation and videotape engraved in history of me saying the exact opposite of what I'm saying now. So how did the Democrats become sacrosanct? Well, it's not because of civil rights, obviously, because they've been racist through and through. And when they're not racist, they're condescending. And they assume that people are all the same due to their skin color. So they're racist even when they're trying not to be racist. So that can't be the reason. And then I'm thinking about Walter, Uncle Walter, and he was a trusted member of the media. And at the same time, Marshall McLuhan said the media is the message. The media is what gives you information, not the politicians. And he was very subtle. I didn't notice it when I was a kid or when I was a teenager. I thought he was a great guy. You know, he cried when Kennedy was shot and killed, and he was excited when we landed on the moon, and he was the old uncle in the living room. People trusted him. He's a Clintonite. He's a total Democrat, and he didn't really wear it on his sleeve. They weren't commentators back then, but they put the foundation down because they made it the liberal causes, etc. And Vietnam, and the teenagers and the college students were not Democrats. They were burning the Democratic Convention down. So it has to be the media. And Watergate. You see, when the Republicans make a big mistake and they're caught, then the media will tear it to shreds until they've exposed every last bit of it, even the lies. And Watergate was nothing compared to what they do now. They were crystal clean Boy Scout, Eagle Scouts, and Girl Scouts, and good-hearted people compared to now, the Nixon administration. But they made mistakes, and then it got blown up, and everything came crashing down because they were exposed, just like any president would be exposed. Except for maybe the president has nothing to lose, or nothing to gain by, being corrupt, which are very few and far between. So I blame the media, and I blame Watergate and blowing that up. Now they're doing the same thing now with this January 6th business. So obvious. First it's instigated by them, it's expedited by the Dems, and then they rail on about how horrible it is and how close we were to utter destruction because of these maniacs who follow this demigod. So they're doing the same thing again, only the media's not even trying to hide anything. They are cheerleaders. And one big segment cheers for the D's that are destroying our country. And they are on the high horse thinking that they are above everything because that last person was so bad that that's all we can concentrate on, is making sure that he never rises again from the ashes. So that's their mission. And I wanted to say that, I'll probably get back to my train of thought there because I had a few thoughts about some parts of the media where I trusted and thought she was kind of good, but now she's kind of going off the deep end with certain subjects. I'm talking Palki. She's way too militant about the serum when it's already been shown that it's not as effective toward the new variants as people like. And somehow she's one of these proponents and advocates that says the more the merrier. Booster after booster after booster. If you have to keep getting a booster every time a new variant comes up, then so be it. And anybody that doesn't is bad. And they're killing people. So I decided one good thing, one way the legislature could, and Congress could, try to alleviate our problems is just outlaw death. Just make it illegal to die. Because obviously, this virus, they're starting to keep track of who's dying and who's not. They never used to do it. I guess, what was the statistic I was reading? I think something like 50 million people a year die worldwide for various reasons. And we might have kept statistics, but we didn't really put them on the news all the time to see how many people died of what. And now suddenly we're taking interest in how many people die of a certain thing, and it's like we want to eradicate that. We don't like the fact that people are dying of that. Well, plenty of people die of cancer and die of emphysema and die of heart disease. And they're trying to alleviate it, but they don't make so many people are dying of heart attacks. We've got to do something. We've got to do something now. It's going to make things worse. So outlaw death. Anybody caught dying will be persecuted. We'll be prosecuted to the full extent of the law. And then, that'll teach people. If people stop dying, then we won't have to have these serums. We won't have to have people at each other's throats about whether or not we should take them or not. And the media going off the deep end about everything. And, I like the guys at Fox, but they're kind of more personality-driven rather than news-driven. And it's obvious because they got great personalities. They really do. I like them. But it's kind of just glibness talking about the issues rather than really getting down to it. So I'm kind of getting more into the Hill business because they seem more newsy. And they have their commentary, but they're not married to it. So I'm kind of liking them. So I endorse watching The Hill and checking it out. It's a little different. They actually kind of have different viewpoints. And they give you a lot of information that will scare the living crap out of you. Real news is really scary. So I will bring it to a close. I was going to rant, but I think I kind of made some points there. I wanted to make sure people knew that there's no reason for this group to be raised up and exalted as the party for the people, because they've done nothing for anybody ever, looking back on it, except for maybe the Civil Rights Act of 1964, which a lot of Democrats didn't want to have happen. I already told you all that. But they haven't done anything good. Been horrible people, and they're really bad now, and Petri Dish is so bad that I don't even want to really talk too much about him anymore, because he's turning into a hateful, it is early in the morning, so I can't come up with all the adjectives I'd like to. But you see him, and if you can't see what he is and put your own adjectives in there, you guys can do it. He's a lowlife, scummy, corrupt, vindictive, divisive Petri dish of putrefied excrement of a diseased jackal. So I'll leave it at that, and I bid you good morning. I'm going to try to get some stuff done. So enjoy this disjointed sermon. Bye.